No, I've already told my family, like, I'm committed to this. I mean, my team of 4 men, we even said if someone were to die on the boat, you get a burial at sea, and we continue to mission success. And I know that sounds, all of them agreed to that. And I know that that's dark on one hand, but I actually think that mission success would be even more important to be able to honor our fallen comrade.
Greg, what's up, man? We were just joking about it. It's been 6 years. I think you and I both have a little more gray, a little less hair up top, and
a little more wrinkles,
maybe a few more bags around the eyes or whatever. It's been a wild 6 years for you in particular, man. I can't remember how we initially got connected, but I know you came on the scene, so to speak, because you spoke up against COVID measures, and it's been a wild ride for you, I'm sure.
It has, man, for sure. It's also the best thing that ever happened to me. By speaking out against what I perceived as tyranny on a local, state, and federal level, it just aligned me with people that share my morals and really built a strong network of people. And then I really moved towards entrepreneurship, my gym, Jiu-Jitsu, and it's been blowing up. So yeah, best move I ever made for sure.
I love this. So I can't remember right offhand, and I apologize about that. But when this whole stuff with COVID went down, were you left the police department, but did you leave directly as a result of that, or were you planning on stepping away anyways, or were you forced out? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, no, I was fired over it.
Yeah,
I made that
right.
video. I made a video encouraging police officers to not enforce mandates that are issued by their governor and their mayor, because in the world of law enforcement, we enforce laws, not mandates. And everybody understands that. That's how the world of law enforcement works. But during that era, all of these local officials and mayors and governors just thought that they could just arbitrarily create laws whenever they wanted. So I was in my patrol car and I made that video encouraging police officers to stand for law and then also respect people's constitutional rights, because a mayor can't make a mandate that supersedes people's constitutional rights. And it went super viral. My chain of command talked to me about it in their office and was like, Greg, on its surface, we agree with your message and everything you say is technically and legally correct. But unfortunately, you're not allowed to voice your opinion while representing our police department in uniform. And so I said, sir, if I can't say that police are to uphold the Constitution inside of or in police uniform, this profession is no longer congruent with me. And they said I had to take it down. I said, I'm not going to take it down. And then I got fired for a policy violation. And they always have a little loophole to be able to, make sure that they win in the legal battle and whatnot. And like I said, it was the best thing that ever happened. It forced me out of the profession. But the truth is, the profession of police work, it's important. There's a lot of good people in it, but I was never super passionate about it. It was more of a means to a paycheck as opposed to living my passion. And since then, my Jiu-Jitsu Academy has blown up and we're doing very well. I'm making more money through Jiu-Jitsu than I ever made as a police officer. And I'm doing something I'm extremely passionate about and empowering my community. So everybody's winning right now.
Yeah, I think that empowering your community is probably the thing that stands out to me most. Like when we step into, I don't know about destiny. I don't know if I'm destined to do a thing or you are. I haven't wrapped my head around that. But when we're stepped into something that we're passionate about, that drives us, like things move, right? And so I imagine you're having a greater impact. Was there any sort of wrongful termination lawsuit? Like how did that play out? I'm sure there were some lawsuits that took place, right?
Well, it's funny how that world works. Initially, since my story went very viral, I had all of these lawyers on Fox News and everything saying, we're going to get you this and we're going to sue them for that. And they're violating your constitutional rights. And a bunch of law firms wanted to pick the case up. Like 10 days later, the George Floyd thing took place. And then my story lost all of its steam.
Of
and I reached out to those same lawyers that on television were like, we're going to do this for you. We're going to do that for you. And I kept getting the same runaround. They're like, well, now that we look at this under more we look into the further details around it, technically it was a policy violation. And so I don't think we really have a leg to stand on. And it made me realize very quickly, it's like during the spotlight, nightly news, they say what sounds cool, the little sound bites of we're going to do this and we're going to sue the Port of Seattle. And then as soon as the spotlight was off the thing, they're like, you know what? We're probably not going to be able to do this. So we did hire a lawyer, and we started to move forward towards a wrongful termination suit. But I realized very quickly, you're just throwing money in a fire. And the lawyers all said, like, there's probably it's more likely than not that we lose this case based on what we're seeing now. And I said, okay, I'm just going to cut my losses and go. And I'm glad. I didn't need to get tied up in all that. Sure, I wanted to. I thought, like, I want to fight for the right thing and come out on top. But that world's gross, and it was very clear that I was just going to get drug into this long battle that was expensive. The other thing is none of the lawyers wanted to take it on as a percentage. Initially they're like, I'll take this case and I'm going to do the right thing for this guy. And then once they realized they may lose money in this, no one wanted to touch it. And I get that. That's how that world of suing people works. And so, yeah, just cut the losses, moved on, and started a journey of entrepreneurship.
I think that's actually pretty powerful because, when I was doing financial planning more than a decade ago, we had this phrase called, chasing bad money with good money. And
yeah,
I actually think it's very similar. I mean, I don't know how long you've been training jiu-jitsu. I know you've got your own academy, and I've trained jiu-jitsu for off and on for about 4 to 5 years now. And the phrase that comes to mind is position before submission, right? And so you'll see these guys, even when I love UFC, so I'll watch UFC fights and I'll see these guys try to throw like an arm triangle. I'm like, bro, it's not working. Like, you're just gassing yourself out. You don't have the submission. Let it go and figure it, like, make an adjustment. And I wish more men did that. Sometimes we double down, we get stubborn, and we do dumb things just for the sake of, I don't know, our own ego.
Yep. No, and don't get me wrong. My ego wanted to rake them over the coals.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also realize it's like, because I also got a GoFundMe through it, which a lot of people hated for whatever reason. A lot of people rallied behind me and supported my family through the termination. And I realized very quickly in the world of legal battles, that GoFundMe could have vanished and I would have been left with nothing. And so we decided to use that money to try and build the academy and start my journey of entrepreneurship. And I'm glad that we did.
Yeah. I think are you religious? Are you spiritual? It's a testament to me of, God works in mysterious ways. And sometimes we're
Agreed.
like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you look up and you're praying, you're like, what is happening? Like, are you there? And then, 2, 3, 5, 6 years down the road, you're like, oh, got it.
No, for sure.
Yeah, that's I wish we could see it sooner. I wish we could see it in real time. So, but anyways, I reached out to you a couple of days ago because I was intrigued with what you're doing, and I've followed your journey loosely, and we haven't really stayed in contact as much as I would have liked, but I've followed you from the sidelines, and you're doing this thing where you're rowing from Washington to Hawaii. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, what is Greg doing? He's like rowing with no sales, no power, no support. I'm like, what in the world is he doing? I got to figure this thing out. So that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah, no. And I'm excited to talk about it. So I'll just take you to the beginning. Like, one of my ethos is to not live vicariously through other men. I think that is one of the downfalls of society, is that a lot of men, they outsource their excitement and they sit on the couch and they watch football every week, right? Yeah, and this isn't me casting shade at football. If you enjoy the sport of football and it intrigues you and the tactics behind it and the athletes, I get that. Just like you said, I follow the UFC sometimes. I'm a martial artist. I enjoy watching other men be able to implement martial arts at the highest level. But there's a balance, right? If you're passionate about fighting, how often are you on the mats? How often are you in the gym? If you're passionate about football or golf, how often are you out pursuing that sport or that activity? And I always want to be cognizant of that, because it's easy to get stuck in that trap where now we're watching other men go out there and chase their dreams and we're vicariously living through them. And so it's a funny story. There was a team of men, a team of 4 men that rode from New York City to London last summer. And it took them 55 days. And I have it pulled up on my phone here. I don't know if you can see that.
Slightly.
Yeah, it's a little kind of blown out. But this guy's name was, this guy's name is, there we go.
Yeah, I see
His name's Jack Jarvis, and he's an English guy. And I saw them rowing across the Atlantic, and they had a Starlink so they could upload content and share the voyage through social media.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by it. I've always wanted to sail the world. I'm called to the ocean. I grew up on a commercial fishing boat in Alaska. And so that's been part of who I've been since I was a little boy. And I've always wanted to move back to that. But you know how it goes. Life happens, and I was in the military, deploying, police work, and that passion just got put on the back burner as my kids were little and life was transpiring. And then I watched these guys, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, that's one of the wildest adventures I've ever watched. And the more I watched them, the more I realized, well, I don't want to start vicariously living through them. I want, if this is something that feels exciting and I feel passion around it, and most importantly, I feel a calling. Like there's something inside of me that's like, you should do that. And I think that's another thing that a lot of men don't listen to. When that little voice inside, or that giant voice inside of you says, hey, you should do that. Don't discredit that. Like when that voice, when your calling inspires you to be part of something or pursue something, go do that. And so I started feeling that. I was like, man, I could do something like this. And I started looking into the logistics of it, started looking into the boats. And I actually reached out to those guys via Instagram and was like, hey, I watched you guys row the Atlantic and it motivated me so much. I'm a West Coast guy. I'm gonna do the Pacific next summer. And they're cool as shit, man. They're like, dude, let's hop on a Zoom. We'll tell you about the journey. We'll tell you about our lessons learned and however we can help you out. And we ended up doing that. And then I bought the boat. And
so that's the same boat they used.
It's not the same manufacturer, but it's the exact same model of boat.
Got it.
And they're an ocean rowing boat that, again, no sails, no engine. It's just a deck with oar locks and oars, and then a cabin in the aft and the stern for sleeping, 2 solar panels to power the mission, and that's it. It's very bare bones.
Solar power for internet, for uploading content, for being able to contact loved ones, like that. That's what it's for. Lighting. That's what it's for.
Yeah. And then there's also some safety considerations. The boat has an AIS system on it and a VHF radio on it as well. And how this system works is if any other vessel comes within 3 miles of us, we both get an alert, and then it puts us in communication with each other. Because that's the biggest concern out there. You don't want some cargo ship coming from China or something that's going at 30 knots. And so and here's the thing. It's very primal on one hand. We're going out into the unknown and we're rowing across the ocean. And men have been doing that since the beginning of time, right?
Yeah.
But with that in mind, we do have modern technology available. And I have a family at home. I have a bunch of kids. We're going to take the necessary measures to make the journey as safe as possible as well.
So when you say no support, what do you mean by that? Because obviously you've got your radios, you've got emergency backup systems. I don't know if there's going to be other boats rowing with you or along the journey.
No other vessels that are supporting the mission, right?
Got it.
A lot of times you will see guys cross oceans as part of an event where they're racing each other and whatnot. Sure. And I'm not diminishing that at all. That's also fascinating. They're on the ocean for 2 months. They're doing the thing, right? But a lot of times the races do have support out there. So if something comes up, they're able to, there's been times when people have to been rescued and whatnot. And so, but this is an unsupported mission. And so because it's unsupported, we're taking every single precaution that we can. We bought the right vessel that can support an unsupported mission. And we're going for it. We leave in 43 days.
So when I hear this, number one, I'm a man, and the guys listening to this are men. So they're like, that's badass. And then my logical brain kicks in and I'm like, wait, you're married, right? You've got kids. You're married, right? So it's like,
married with 3 kids.
Yeah. So it's like, is this reckless? And how do you How do you reconcile that?
That's certainly something that, me and my family had to talk about. Like you can see behind me, I have the William Wallace
I saw it, man.
poster.
Yeah, I saw it. That's the first thing I saw.
We're in my podcast studio. And I can tell you, I watched Braveheart when I was 14 years old when it came out in the theater. And I remember just being called to wanting to be a warrior. And ever since that, I ended up pursuing that life. I became an Army Ranger. I was with 2nd Ranger Battalion. Did a tremendous amount of time overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan during the GWAT. And then I got married, and then I had kids, and I'm not diminishing that, but my own spirit of adventure was put on the back burner for a while. And I think we have to prioritize different things at different phases of our life. But something that I preach on my podcast and to my Jiu-Jitsu Academy is a lot of men put the needs of their family and their children above themselves to the point where it's actually detrimental. Now, I fully understand we have to prioritize our kids and our families. We have to keep them fed. We have to house them. Like, all of those things are really important. But I also think it's important for men to prioritize their own goals, their own dreams. And because at the end of the day, our kids will get to have their life. This is your life. And I also think by pursuing the things that call to us and the things that excite us, we're actually showing them that that's how you do live as a human being. This is our one chance on Earth in the meat-covered skeleton, as I call it. So I'm going to do some meat-covered skeleton shit, and that involves adventure, and people are called to a lot of weird things: mountaineering, wingsuit flying, jiu-jitsu. Like, a lot of our hobbies and our aspirations come with a certain amount of danger. But the spirit of adventure is inherent to being a human being. Like, you're never going to see a bear at the top of Mount Everest. If a bear is walking up the mountain, the air gets thin, they get tired, there's no food up here. They're like, what am I doing? I'm going back down. The human being is the only one that says, I'm going to keep going up just to see what I can find. And that's always fascinated me. I don't know if you watched the documentary 14 Peaks with Nims Purja.
I know, I'm familiar with him. I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube, but I have not watched that documentary.
Oh, bro, do yourself a favor and watch that.
14 Peaks,
and again,
it's called?
It's 14 Peaks. It's a man that's doing something that most people in his life say, that's preposterous. Why would you do that? And he listened to his calling. And I think it's an important thing to do for men. And here's the thing, too. My daughters are now 11, 14, and 16.
Okay.
And so I understand when they're small and when they're babies, like, you have to be a lot more present. But now that they're older and my 16-year-old is pretty much self-sufficient. She's like another parent in the household. She helps us out, driving the kids around and cooking dinner and stuff.
Having your first as a daughter is always the best. My oldest is not my daughter. She's my third.
Okay.
But when I talk with guys, they're like, oh, my oldest is a daughter. I'm like, that's actually a pretty good deal because you have another mom in the house.
You do. And it's crazy. And it's funny, too, because my oldest is also like a saint. I know everybody thinks their kids are perfect, right? But I'm telling you, my oldest is responsible. She's motivated. She goes to school full time. She works full time. And she really helps the household out. She takes after my wife. My other two, my 14-year-old and my 11-year-old, are wild animals. They take after me, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, mom gets the first one. You get the follow-ups.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I talk to them, and my two older daughters are in full support. They're like, yeah, Dad, go pursue your adventure. I think that's cool. My youngest is a little nervous about it, rightfully so.
Sure.
But I told her, too, I said, I wouldn't be doing this, because some people ask me, like, is this a suicide mission? And the answer to that is absolutely not. I've prayed on this. I've visualized. I already know that it's a mission success. I know that I will be stepping foot on the island of Maui. What I don't know is what the journey is going to entail from point A to point B. And stepping into the unknown is something that is good for us. Everybody wants to have all their I's dotted and their T's crossed and understand how everything's going to transpire in their life. And sometimes you just say, fuck it, let's go do something and see what happens. And I'm still healthy enough. I'm 45 years old. So I'm getting up there, like we talked about. Our hair's receding a little bit. I got more wrinkles, but my body is still fit and strong. And I want to be able to capitalize on some of these adventures before I'm 65 years old and tell myself coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Please take this with the respect I'm asking it. I don't want to be a pessimist, but I also want to ask you really thoughtful questions that maybe nobody has asked you before.
Of course.
What could possibly happen that would cause you to quit?
I guess we'll find out. Like, as I sit here now and think about the journey, my answer is nothing. Right?
What if something was rough at home? Like you wouldn't say, "Hey, I'm done. I'm coming home."
No. No, I've already told my family, like, I'm committed to this. I mean, my team of 4 men, we even said if someone were to die on the boat, you get a burial at sea, and we continue to mission success.
Damn.
And I know
all of them agreed to that.
All of them agreed to that. And I know that that's dark on one hand, but I actually think that mission success would be even more important to be able to honor our fallen comrade, you know? And so, and I'm also not delusional now, though. There are things that could transpire out there that would require us to throw the towel in. But here's the other side of it. Rescue out there is days or weeks away as well. Sure. And so it's not like, oh, this sucks, I quit, right? That's
not
like, going to
cool.
fly out
You got
there.
2 more weeks to struggle through it, so you might as well keep rowing.
You know, and obviously there's a couple things that if they were to go wrong, mission success is now an impossibility. Like we're bringing 2 water makers. You bring desalinators, and you literally just draw water out of the ocean, run it through the desalinator, and then that's how you drink. Because there's no way you could bring that much weight in water for a 70-day journey. So like, and I bought 2 brand new desalinators. I shouldn't have an issue. I'm not foreseeing it being an issue, but at the same time, if something were to happen, you can't make water. Obviously, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. What about food? Are you guys bringing dehydrated meals? And
Yep.
And you're not getting any food drops or food supplies or anything throughout the trip?
No.
Dang.
So what we're doing is we're bringing 70 days worth of food that's going to be freeze dried, and you literally just pack the whole of the boat with it. And
it's light because it's all dehydrated, so it's light.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you reconstitute it as you eat it. We're also bringing a spear gun and a fishing pole, and one of the guys on the team is from Maui. And so he's an avid spear fisherman. He's one of those freaks with like a 5-minute breath hold, goes down 100 feet. Whoa. And so we foresee eating a lot of fish on the journey as well. There's like a clamshell solar oven that you can buy. You just open it up, and it works like a magnifying glass. It reflects the sun ray right into the spot where the meat sits, and you can just cook.
Oh, so you don't have any fuel? Like propane, gas, anything like that?
We're probably going to bring a jet boil with some canisters just to be able to heat up water, make coffee and whatnot. But no, we don't foresee that being a method of actually cooking food out there.
Interesting.
Some teams do that. Some teams bring like a big cauldron and a propane stove and whatnot. So it just depends on how you want to utilize your space and what equipment you want to bring.
Would you call yourself a more of a purist in that way? Like I'm not saying that you would like necessarily compare yourself to somebody who might have propane or might have electricity or a generator, for example. But would you call yourself more of a purist in that way, or how would you compare to that?
I don't know if I would call it a purist. I'm thinking about just longevity and convenience, right? I think if we're to invest in a solar oven, that's going to work for the duration of the trip, no matter what, as opposed to bringing a bunch of canisters of fuel. And then it's another thing to have to measure and keep track of, because that's the whole journey. You're measuring your food, you're measuring your electricity, you're making sure your batteries are getting filled each day through the solar panel. And most teams will tell you that is the biggest consideration. Power coming in versus power going out. Sure. And you have to manage that.
It's interesting because I often talk about it in the context of what it means to be a man. And I've got a lot of definitions, but one of the definitions that I have is a boy becomes a man when he learns to produce more than he consumes. We're all consumers, but if you can outproduce your consumption, then you're a man.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And
that's like that's a physical representation of those ethos, you know?
Absolutely. How are you guys going to keep from killing each other?
It's funny you say that. We have made a team pact. And again, it's easy to say this when you're rowing around Lake Stevens here doing training rows.
Right.
But we've made a team pact that the goal of the journey is to remain respectful to one another throughout the entire duration. Because conflict, I mean, we're not going to fight each other out there. We're all jiu-jitsu guys too, right? Like
you could kill each other. Everybody could kill each other. Yeah.
Everybody's tough dudes out there, right? But here's the thing. Disrespect is only going to lead to further conflict, right? And so what we said is, hey, if we have to have a hard conversation because someone's not pulling their weight or just whatever may transpire out there where we need to have a difficult conversation, we've already set the guidelines is that, like, if you're doing something that the team thinks is not up to par with our ethos and what we're trying to do, we're going to have a conversation about it. But it's indicative on each and individual rower to make sure that you're trying your hardest to live to those ethos of zero conflict. That doesn't mean you can't feel anger or fear. That doesn't mean you can't fucking scream at the night sky and curse God. Like I foresee feeling the full gamut of emotions out there: fear, anger, frustration, but also joy, elation, brotherhood. We're going to experience them all. But when we're in the vibration of the what you would call the negative vibe or the negative emotions or bad emotions, we want to be very intentional, feel those, sit with them, communicate them, and make sure that we just maintain respect. Because the second I've been a part of a lot of high functioning teams over the years.
Yeah. And in very high stress environments.
Exactly. And having the foundation of your team being respect, you can get through almost anything. And so that's one of the goals. And we're going to try and outline and have like a system to where it's like, hey, these days Johnny gets to pick the music. On these days I get to pick the music, and have everything be kind of planned out ahead of time so we don't get in any tiffs over petty bullshit like that. Because when the stress is high, the petty bullshit has a bigger seat at your table, right? Yeah. So we're trying to get ahead of that kind of stuff. And a perfect example, Johnny goes, well, I think on my days that I get to pick the music, I'm going to choose silence. He goes, I'm trying to get out there. He goes, I want my music to be the ocean. And so we're like, all right, on Johnny's days, we row in silence. And on my days, maybe we listen to a book on tape or a podcast. Joshua, another teammate, said,
podcast.
Yeah, that's right. This episode just on repeat.
That's right. Everybody's like, shut the hell up. I'm so sick of this episode.
But like Joshua, his children made him a playlist to remind him of them. And he goes, on my days, that's something that I'm excited to listen to help me feel connected to my children. And so all these little things we're trying to get ahead of. And I'm not delusional either. We'll probably be at each other's throats by day 3. Yeah, I get that, right? But another thing is I've been through the cycle of deployment a lot. I did 14 deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan.
Whoa.
And so there's always a caveat to that. The units I was with, we did 90-day rotations.
Got it.
So
still, though, I mean,
even though the number
14
is
times is tough.
Oh, bro, it adds up, right?
I left twice, one stateside, one overseas, and that was tough. They were longer deployments, but it was tough, man.
So let me ask you, from what I saw over and over and over, you're excited to deploy. This is what I do. I'm in the Army. You deploy, and then you hit the ground, and then you're in Afghanistan or Iraq. And I would say the first 3 to 10 days, you're like, oh, I miss my girlfriend. Am I going to get killed? What's my future? And like you have all those conversations with yourself. And then by days 7 to 10, you kind of fall into your op tempo. You accept what you've committed to. And then a lot of times the rest of the deployments are fun. Yeah. And so I've told the team that. And then we've talked to other rowers and they said, it's almost identical. The first week is going to be what are we doing? Why did we commit to this?
This is stupid.
Why are we doing this? I miss my kids. I miss my girlfriend. I miss my wife. And then after a week to 10 days, you're like, okay, we're in the groove. The op tempo is happening. And that's when the journey becomes enjoyable. And it's also, if you watch any of those survival shows, you watch like Alone is my favorite show. And it's not because I want to learn how to make a bow drill fire. It's because I love seeing the psychology of human beings when they're being pushed. And you see very often in Alone, there's a wave of people that have a very hard time within that first week.
Yeah.
And so we are anticipating that. We're expecting that. And I'm telling the guys, the first week is going to be the hardest. And then after that, I think we fall into our groove, and then we just strive towards mission accomplishment. And Ryan, I'll tell you this too. One of the most exciting things about this whole thing is mission prep, mission planning. I'm planning the routes. I'm planning waypoints. We're acquiring gear. And it's not that I miss the military, right? Because this isn't like, oh, I'm trying to reclaim who I was. I think men having a mission is something that's empowering throughout the duration of our entire life. And so put something in front of you that is not only physically, emotionally, and spiritually arduous, but it requires commitment, requires you to think meticulously, planning, gear, comms. Like before we got on, I was on the phone all day talking to Starlink about communication packages, Iridium sat phones. There's a thing called YB Tracker that allows people to see where you're at on the ocean in real time, 24 hours around the clock, how to wire these things into the boat, how to configure it so they don't like cross-contaminate each other, and just geeking out on the mission itself. And I'll tell you what, bro, it's been exciting. It's like kind of lit a new fire in me.
That's all. You know, one of the things that stands out as you're saying this is I think a lot of guys have goals and dreams and aspirations, whether it's something as like what you're doing or, you know, just starting a new business, right? And they just go at it alone. And what I'm hearing you say is, yeah, sure. At some point, you're going to be out there with your 3 guys, right? It's just going to be you 4 out there. But until then, get other people involved. You've got a team. You've got people who've done this before. Like we have resources, and we should tap into that. The one person that came to mind. Do you know a woman by the name of Laura Zera? Does that ring a bell?
I'm not. It sounds familiar, but I don't know if I'm familiar.
I should see if I could get you connected with her. She's incredible. She's been on. I can't remember if it's Alone or Naked and Afraid for I don't know, like a record number of times, and she's got the highest score.
She has a Malinois, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Sounds like she probably would. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know who you mean now. I'm familiar with her. I don't know her, but I've seen her on television. She's fascinating.
You should talk with her because she'll go out and she's like, yeah, I'm going to disappear for 2 months. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like literally disappear. Like you will not be able to find me. I'll go off grid for 2 months at a time. And she loves it.
Oh, what a stud.
It is. It's awesome. And I can't help but think like how often we step into what we consider uncharted territory, but it's not really. If we just look around, there's other people who have done it. If we just learn to tap into that, exercise a little humility and a desire to learn and grow from other people who have done what we're trying to accomplish.
For sure. I also think one of the biggest problems in modern society is the rat race is ever present, and we're all plugged into the rat race to some degree. Outside of, there's a handful of people that just completely live off grid and have chickens and all that, right? Mm-hmm. But for most people, the rat race is part of our reality. And then you go out in the mountains or you go out on the ocean, you go hiking, you go climbing. Everybody that goes out and does that, there's something that you just feel in your soul. It feels cleansing. It feels exciting. Like you go out in the woods, it feels good. What is that? I think it's from the dawn of mankind until not too long ago, we had a symbiotic relationship with nature, and we've really unplugged from that. That's why, and you're a hunter, I'm a hunter. You go out and you harvest an animal, you feel the emotions of taking a life, you feed your family with that, and there's something that feels primal. And I think it's important for us to be intentional about plugging back into nature. And for me, that's a big part of this as well, because I've always been fascinated by the ocean.
What are some of your biggest concerns? I wrote down a few things because I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about. And for me, here's what comes to mind for me. So fill in the blanks on this. So I think about seasickness, isolation, negative self-talk, but I also think about waves and swells that are probably colossal that we can't even imagine being here on the shore. I don't even know what that looks like. That's scary as shit to me, man.
And the truth is, if I'm being honest, I can't really imagine them either. Like my father was a commercial fisherman in Alaska. I've seen some pretty gnarly oceans, but I was in a 52-foot trawler too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally different experience. This is a 20-foot rowboat. The boat is hurricane rated though, and they've never lost one. And so it's built from it's built in the hull itself is neutrally buoyant. So if you break it in half, it will still float, right? And it's also built in a manner to where the way that the cabins sit, it will always self-righten. If the boat rolls, they will always self-righten. And so you literally have a climbing harness on, and you're 24/7 when you are on the deck of the boat, you are shackled in and you're locked in. And that's one of the things that Jack told me. He goes, bro, you'll get out one morning for your shift. It's glass, there's no wind, and you'll say, I don't need my harness on. And you'll start rowing. But 2 hours into your shift, you can get hit by a rogue wave that can throw you off the boat. He said it only happened to us once, but still, if that happens to you and you're not shackled in, that's the end of it. So he said, be very intentional, have some safety SOPs that you follow no matter what. And there again, that is actually like part of a mission that is exciting. These are the operating guidelines. These are the do's and don'ts. And Ryan, we're operating in the realm of reality, and that feels good. If you do this, it'll likely lead to mission success. If you don't, it could have a catastrophic consequence. And to tell you the truth, I'm actually excited about that. We're taking the boat out this weekend and doing some training rows. And I reached out to the manufacturer. I said, hey, we're going to intentionally roll the boat a couple times just to understand if it were to happen, how we climb back on and how we have to counterbalance and whatnot. And they laughed at me. And they said, every boat that leaves our facility gets rolled to make sure it's just part of the quality control. He goes, we have to take a crane and attach it to the bottom and lift it all the way up to make it roll. And the representative that we were talking to, she said, so good luck rolling it on your own. It won't happen. That boat is built to stay upright. Because we've done a couple training rows already, and like you get up to take a piss off the side and the full boat goes like this, and we're like, oh shit, is this thing gonna go? But we want to see what the limits are, and she says we can't make it flip. We'll find out. We'll figure it out. Becoming intimate with and familiar with our gear,
Yeah. Okay, so obviously being thrown off the boat, you're harnessed in even when you're sleeping in the cabin. You're harnessed in as well.
No, when you're in the cabin, the cabin doors are locked.
You're locked,
shut in.
Yeah,
and you're in a secure space.
So I mean, obviously that's a concern. What are some of your own personal fears? Is it like what is it that you're like? This is gonna be a tough one for me. I'm gonna have to really work through this, whether it's physical or even mental.
Here's what's funny is like initially I was like, I think fear and excitement are a very similar vibration, right? So when something dangerous happens, you can feel this emotion, but I think it's a choice if we attach a fear to it or an excitement to it. And I can tell you, Ryan, I was in Ramadi for 2 years, right? 04 and 05, which was like the pinnacle of combat.
Yeah, I was there in 05 and 06. So
okay, so yeah, we were at Blue Diamond. Were you at Camp R Ramadi right across the river?
Yep, Ramadi.
Okay, there you go. Incoming every single day.
Every day, without fail.
And we reached a point as a team where like, hey, when we get attacked, let's just have fun with it and see what happens instead of allowing it to like diminish you and make you feel small and scare you. And again, that was 25 years ago or 20 years ago now. And so it's like, am I going to be able to show up like that? I hope so. But and it's easy to sit here in my studio and say, I'm going to show excitement instead of fear. But I'll tell you what, I had a dream about a month ago. You know those dreams where you wake up, but it's still a dream, right? And I woke up and I was in the cabin of the boat and it was pitch black and it was like a monsoon outside. And I was like, oh man, it's real now. Here you are. And I felt in my dream the emotion of fear. And I think that was probably like almost like a premonition of what's to come. I do think there's going to be a lot of scary moments out there. Mm-hmm. And to think otherwise, I think I'd be setting myself up for failure. And so there is the potential that we go from point A to point B and don't go through any storms and don't go through anything treacherous. And if that happens, cool. But I also don't want to prepare myself for that. And then when you get out there and you get in some shit, oh no, right? And so, there's things you can do to mitigate. Jack, what Jack recommended? He goes, make sure, this is something we didn't do that we wish we did. Make sure you bring rugby helmets for everyone, like thick leather rugby helmets.
Just because when you're in the cabin and hitting against the walls,
you're getting bashed around, it protects your head.
Yeah, well, that's the power of having somebody who's done it before. You're like, I would have done that. But it is interesting about, I like what you're saying about playing small. I remember when I went to Ramadi, and I think it was May or June of 2005 is when I actually got there. We did 6 months stateside training because I was in the National Guard, but we got there June of 2005. And I remember the unit that was training us up and getting us ready to take over, man, they were so afraid. And I'm not downplaying, I'm not mocking them. Like, what they experienced was horrific. But they were so afraid, man. They would take shifts and almost, it seemed like, draw straws for like who was going to go to the chow hall and bring food back. And they'd only send one or two guys at a time, but they wouldn't send everybody. And then you if it was your day, like, you went and got food for 20 other guys. And I was like, what is happening? What is going on? And then I got there, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. It's scary when you've got rockets and mortars being lobbed at you every single day. And I hope, and I like to think that we did not embrace that mentality, and we just said, hey, you know what? Like, we're going to go live our life. And if God wants to call me home today, then, and a rocket gets lobbed right on my head, then today's the day. And hopefully I go quick.
Yep. Same thing. Same exact mindset. And like, I also saw a difference with the different MOSs, because a lot of MOSs that are not combat focused MOSs, hey, I'm a mechanic or I'm a cook. I don't think a lot of people realized, because we got to see the transition from peacetime to wartime military.
Yeah.
I think we still had a lot of people in that were like, fuck, I didn't sign up for this, whereas a lot of times the guys that are in the combat MOSs, I just think they had more of an understanding that, like, hey, I signed up for combat and now it's here. Mm-hmm. And exactly like you said, that was my mentality too. It's like, I can't be afraid of dying, because, dude, if you're afraid of dying in Ramadi, you are combat ineffective. Because someone's going to try and kill you every day. That's a guarantee. When I got home, one of my family members asked me, they're like, so were you guys, like, during downtime or when you were off duty, could you, like, go into the city and eat at restaurants and that kind of stuff? And I'm like,
they're running marathons in Ramadi right now. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're running marathons in Ramadi? U.S. citizens running marathons in Ramadi? Sounds wild to me.
It's like, dude, if I went downtown Ramadi, even with my full team, full gear, full kit, someone tried to kill me pretty much every time. You go down there and you try and just sit down in a restaurant to have something to eat, 100% chance someone's going to try and kill you, And so that, again, it's like, okay, knowing that there's men out there that are going to do everything that in their power to try and kill me, I can be afraid of that, or I can just understand that's the battle space we're occupying, and what can I do to mitigate it? And I tell people, when I talk about this with people, it's not like beating my chest, being a tough guy. It's simply a mindset shift. You can be afraid and die, or you can stand in your power and die, and the end result is going to be your death. And so I became very comfortable with my death, and to the fact where I almost expected it in Ramadi. And here's a funny story. Like, mortars would land in Ramadi and like shit would splash up and hit you and be like, I remember we'd laugh about it, right? Be like, oh, almost got me, but not quite. And like always being lighthearted and joking about it. And then I went on a deployment where we didn't get attacked one time until the end, and a mortar landed like very close to me and one of my teammates. And we hit the ground and we were covered up and we were like, oh, fuck, dude. And what I realized, it's not only a choice in how you respond, but your nervous system actually gets conditioned to it too.
Yeah.
Because we kind of, and this same guy was with me in Ramadi too. And we were almost embarrassed. We're like, oh man, we were acting like those pogues in the chow hall, you know? But it's like, when you get exposed to something dangerous day in and day out, there's an element of conditioning that happens. And then when you're not exposed to that, it's actually your nervous system healing. It's a good thing that explosions scare you again, right?
Yeah. I remember one time I was walking from, I can't remember if I was walking from my barracks or my bunk to, or maybe the office I was working out of or something. I was walking to the chow hall. We heard the sirens go off and I'm like looking around. We're in the middle of the softball field on Fa Ramadi. I'm like, what? And I saw a palm tree and I ran over the palm, me and two other buddies, we ran over the palm tree and we're like buried it as low as we can get behind the palm tree. This thing blows up like 80 yards from us and we're like, what the fuck? Like, and all we could do was like smile at each other. And then we ran over and helped some people who had actually become casualties. But I think that's a little bit where that dark humor might come from. But yeah, man,
it's necessary.
You're drumming up some experiences, man. Some memories for me on this for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious though, what kind of conversations are you having with your wife and your daughters? Because, you know, there's something came to mind. There's this scene in Apollo 13 where Tom Hanks is, you know, playing Jim Lovell and his son was worried about the hatch not working and the astronauts from a previous Apollo mission getting stuck in this hatch and burning to death. And his son's asking him about it. And Jim Lovell, played by Tom Hanks, is having this conversation, a real conversation with his son about what could go wrong.
Yeah. You know, and I've had those conversations with my family. I've also, you know, this is a truth. Like, we could get killed on a automobile accident tomorrow. Yeah. And in fact, statistically, that's more likely than dying in an ocean rowing boat. And so like we've had those talks, but luckily my wife was a rock star, or she is a rock star. She was with me through a lot of deployments. You know, we met in 2005. We actually met right after Ramadi. And so I did a few more deployments to Baghdad while we were together. And then a few more deployments up north in Kurdistan, which don't even count as deployments because you actually can go out.
Not
to the
relative to what you've done. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But regardless, it's interesting you asked this because the team lineup of men that committed to the row, it changed twice. And both times that it changed was because spouses were carrying a lot of fear around it, right? And one of them called my wife, and she's like, what are our husbands doing? What is this? I don't understand, right? And my wife's response was, she goes, hey, well, we pride ourselves on our men being these leaders and these fighters, and we joke that like, our husbands are like modern day Vikings, and like we like to say these things as wives, but then when our men want to go out and do Viking shit, we can't tame them. Like if this is the type of man that you want to be the leader of your family and that you want to bear children with, just know that when a sense of adventure calls to them, you don't want to tame them because that stands against the man that we actually are calling into our lives. That's not what we wanted as women. And for my wife to understand that, see that, and be able to articulate that, it was awesome to see. But still, a couple of the other wives were like, I can't get behind this. And I told my buddies too. I told them, I said, I'm not upset with you at all for pulling the plug on it, because the last thing I want is you out in the middle of the ocean feeling an internal conflict with your wife and your family back home.
Absolutely.
We can't have that. So unless the family's good, probably not the best person suited to be on the team, right? And so the next, and again, it's like, call it God, call it the universe. Everything worked out the way that it worked out. And the two guys that filled those positions, both of them told me when we offered them to be on the team, they said, let me sit with it. Let me talk to God. Let me talk to my family. Let me talk to my wife. And then give me a week or two to really pray on it. And then we'll talk. And they did that, and they were very intentional. They had the support of their family. Actually, both the other two guys, their wife told them almost the same story. They're like, I think it sounds fucking crazy, but I support you. I support you if you feel like this is something you want to do. In fact, one of them, my buddy from Maui, his wife said, she goes, not only do I support you, I think that you should do it. I think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so the team came together in the manner that I believe that it should have.
So, okay, so let me ask you a couple more questions with regards to your wife. So, number one, if randomly, I don't think this will happen. I can't imagine this happening, but let's just play it out for the sake of argument. Your wife came to you and said, hey, Greg, I actually don't want you to do this.
At this point, it's a foregone conclusion.
You're doing it.
You know
You're
what I mean?
in.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
100%.
doing it. We have invested. I mean, I've invested probably $130,000 out of pocket already. And then we have some big sponsors that are helping us out. Vortex Optics is helping us out.
Awesome.
And then we got
Vortex.
a bunch of. Oh, bro, I love that company. If you're not connected with them, I'd love to connect you.
I'm actually going out there in June to go do some long range rifle shooting with them.
Okay. Are you going to connect with Seamus?
Seamus. Yeah. Seamus and I are friends. So yeah.
Okay. Seamus is the man, dude.
Yeah.
And so I have these companies that have already backed us, and it's not just the money thing. It's that their name and their ethos are part of this. And we're going full steam ahead for sure. My wife would never ask me that. Even if,
I know.
I
threw that out there. I knew she wouldn't, but I have to throw out the hypothetical.
Of course. Yeah.
All right. So next question. This one's a little heavier with regards to her. Why does she believe in you? As tactical as you can get, why, or as granular, maybe I should say, why does she believe in you?
You know, and disclaimer, because sometimes I give relationship advice, but I always say, like, you might want to look at the history of my marriage before you take heed to my advice, right? Because my marriage has been a roller coaster. You know, like, she was with me through the war, and then I came home, and like a lot of veterans, I had a phase that was pretty dark. And then we had children, which is like a whole new beginning where you're like, what is going on? And so like we had a pretty rough patch where we really disconnected as husband and wife and weren't there supporting each other emotionally. And I can tell you, like, after working through those really dark phases, we're the closest that we've ever been. And one thing that my wife has always said to me, she's like, out of the different guys I dated, even my own father, she goes, you're the only guy in the world that I've ever felt safe with. And she goes, and that's why right when we started dating, I was drawn to you. I was hooked in. And like, she goes, the night we met, I knew that you were going to be the one for the rest of my life.
Met?
The night we met.
Wow.
And, it's funny too, because she even this might be too much information for the podcast, but she was like, I was never a girl that like went home with guys. I never did a one night stand in my life. But she goes, and we just met and connected and exchanged information. We went our separate ways, right? She goes, but there was something about you. If you'd asked me to go with you that night, she goes, I couldn't have said no, right? And she said it's because she goes, when you gave me a hug goodbye, she goes, I felt safety. And I've never felt that before from a man. And so, like, my wife knows that part of me being the husband that provides her that safety net, it's also indicative of a person that is willing to face fears, is willing to challenge, is willing to confront danger, is willing to push yourself. Like, all the things that made me the person that she feels like very drawn to is part of, or I should say adventure is part of that. And so she's not delusional either. She knows I could die out there, but she also knows, like, I would rather be with him living his life and being the man that I respect and that I look up to as someone who is a leader of our family and provides safety. I would rather him continue to be the person he is. And if it ends up costing him his life, like, I understand that. And bro, we're not going to live forever. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to die. There's no part of me that even thinks I'm going to die. But you and I both have lost enough friends through the war and through now suicide. I've lost a ton of teammates to suicide. I've lost 7 of my teammates to suicide. Making it to 80, if we do, cool. But I would rather live chasing adventure and being a free spirit. And if something catches me in the meantime, that's just part of life, you know? It's like Andy Stump. I was with him last week, and he's like, "Your boat's gonna sink out there." And I say, Andy, you fly around in a fucking wingsuit.
Wingsuit,
Okay?
a squirrel suit.
Wingsuit.
That thing can rip, and you go crash into a mountain way quicker than you're going to drown in the sea.
Yeah, I said, don't tell me that it's like, oh, what are you doing? You're going to drown out there. And he's like, no. I just hope your boat sinks. That's all.
That sounds fair, dude. Andy's actually coming on the podcast in a couple weeks because he's got a new book coming out too. And
his book's coming out.
Yeah, dude. I've trained with him. I've trained with him a handful of times, but the first time I ever trained jiu-jitsu with him, I had a long beard. It was like down to my chest. And we were training, and he grabbed my lapel from behind, and he just like
with a fistful of beard.
He just yanked it down like this. And most guys training jiu-jitsu are like decent human beings where they'll try not to grab your beard. And he's like, no, I'm grabbing your beard. And he did it on purpose. And he comes back and he yells like an Indian, like he had scalped me. And he's got a big clump of my beard. And that's the night that I actually trimmed my beard down to just a little longer than what you see today. He's a different breed, man.
Hey, I always say, like, with the girls, we take care of their long hair. But if you're a guy with long hair or beard, that's your problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's fair game, but he definitely exploited it in a way that, you know, most decent people would not. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. I'm really excited when I saw what you were doing, and like I said, I've been following kind of on the sidelines. I should have been more engaged with you. I wasn't, but when I was following from the sidelines, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. How do we support you? How do we follow along and support what you're doing?
I don't know if you guys can see that.
Is it the boat? I can't quite see what it is.
Yeah, that's the boat.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the boat. And you can see the cabin on each end with a solar panel on top of it, 2 rowing positions. And that's going to be my home for 2 months, man. And so
when you guys row, is it 2 at a time? You guys like 2 guys?
Yep.
2 on 2. Forward and aft. And is that what it is essentially?
Yep, it's 2 hours. It's either 2 hours on or 3 hours on. That's how most teams have built their rotation.
3 hours,
and so it's 3 hours on, 3 hours off for 60 days.
Damn.
And so
24/7.
But here's the thing: 24/7.
So you're getting you're getting 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. Well, you're getting more, but 2 to 3 hours at a time.
Yeah, I mean, how it works is you'll be rowing for 12 hours a day, and you'll be resting for 12 hours a day. But during that rest, you obviously have to make food, make your water, like fuel up, like all that shit, right? So you really have to get in a routine that I'm not fully going to understand until we're out there. But you want to really maximize eating and maximize rest because you're burning 8,000 calories a day out there.
Is that what it is? 8,000?
Yeah. And trying to consume more than 5,000 is almost impossible. So we're gonna be in a very a high caloric deficit. That's why I know you can't see, but I've had the pleasure of eating whatever I want for the last couple months.
Oh, bro, I saw some of those videos. I'm like, he's got a little gut on him right now.
That's what I'm saying. On one hand, because I take my physical fitness very seriously.
You do.
And for the first time in my life, I feel like a fat guy, but I'm also in beast mode shape. I can row for hours and hours and hours. And so I'm being intentional, putting on some body fat. But I told my wife, I said, if the day I get home, I'm not fucking shredded, it's right back to like psychopathic eating, dieting, training, all that stuff.
So what's the balance between for you? You know, so how big are you? Like on average, what would you say you carry your weight around at? I mean, what are
190?
And how tall are you?
6 foot.
6 foot, 190. And so what do you weigh now?
210.
Okay, so you've put on 20 pounds.
Yep.
What is your training look like? I can't imagine it's a lot of like muscle building. I think you're probably going for being more cardio, I imagine.
The only thing I'm doing is the Concept 2 rower, just logging. I probably logged over 1 million meters on that thing in the last few months.
Oh my gosh.
Typically I'll row 1 to 2 hours a day. right?
Really?
Now, that's a lot less than 12. But ocean rowers will tell you, you're not really building a base in fitness per se.
Mm-hmm.
You're just conditioning your ligaments and your tendons, your connective tissues to going through that repetitive motion over and over and over and over. So once you get out on the water, the expedition itself will build the fitness. And so it's like initially you'll feel kind of tired and overwhelmed, but then your body will become conditioned because you're going through the motions over and over and over. And so what I'm doing now is 1 to 2 hours a day. I was going up to 4 hours a day, but I'm actually tapering it down now.
Scaling it back now.
Yeah, to let my body kind of rest and not be just put through the ringer. And like I was rowing like 4 hours a day for a little bit. Those days are behind me, thank God.
Yeah.
Just watching Braveheart from start to finish and then watching another movie afterwards. But no, we put in the work. The team has been very disciplined. We're conditioned. We're ready to go. And I'm eating as much pizza and Mexican food and hamburgers as much as I want right now. So it's actually been kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it is now, but you're going to pay the price here shortly. So you're going to earn that pizza for sure, man.
Yep.
Hey, Greg, how do we support you? I mean, if we can sync you up with sponsors, if we could sponsor individually, if we can share or just like follow along with your journey, what do we do?
So if you go to Row West Pacific, that is our Instagram. We do have a GoFundMe available because a lot of people want to kick in and be part of it. Another thing a lot of people want to do is row a 5K a day while we're out there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
If you just want to turn it into a fitness challenge and be part of that, that would be awesome as well. You guys are that way. You're not only like part of what's going on, but I believe in energy. I believe in like, you're energetically supporting the mission. You're putting your life, you're putting energy and effort into what we're doing and really rowing alongside of us. I think that's cool. So if you want to follow it, it's rowwestpacific.com Row West Pacific on Instagram. We are going to have a website that you can track us on. And I believe that is also Row West Pacific, but I might have not purchased it yet. I'll have to double check on that.
Better get on it before I release this podcast because somebody's going to scoop it up and want to sell it to you for a lot more. So you better get on it.
Okay. No, I'll double check and I'll actually text you, but Row West Pacific will also be the website. I'm almost sure of that. Then the last thing you can do is, we talked about it briefly, but my book just came out, Courage Through Adversity. And this book is unlike any book that I've read because it is both a memoir and a blueprint. And it's 2 parts. The first part of the story is just kind of a snapshot of my life. I felt like if I was going to give people any type of advice or share wisdom, that they need to have insight on who I am as a man. So part 1 is my story, and then part 2 is our story. And the whole thing about part 2 is how we individually just become better men, because that is the foundation of society becoming better as a whole. If it's composed of individually strong men that hold good values, that are capable, that are in shape, that are pursuing goals, that are becoming financially successful, all of those things. The last thing I'll say about the book is I never want to come across as a guru or a guy that thinks he has life figured out, because if Jiu-Jitsu teaches you anything, it's that there is no finish line. There's not a black belt on planet Earth that's like, I figured out Jiu-Jitsu. You know what I mean? That person doesn't exist. So instead of sharing things with the readers that's like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, it's more like, hey, this is the wisdom that I've acquired over 45 years on this planet. And it worked. These are the things that worked well for me. And I hope that they can work well with you. And I think if leaders and men share each other's wins and we can understand what worked over here, what didn't work over there, that's how collectively we become better. And so I've got a tremendous amount of feedback on the book. People are very happy with it. They feel like it's inspiring and it's helping them move the needle towards good.
We're going to sync it all up for you, man. It's funny when you were talking about jiu-jitsu, I've got a good, close personal friend. His name's Kip Sorensen. He co-hosts a podcast with me once a week. And he's been training for, 14 or 15 years at this point. And 3 or 4 years ago when he got his black belt, he had told me a story that somebody asked him, well, what are you going to do now? And he didn't even comprehend the question. He's like, what do you mean? Like, he couldn't even wrap his head. He's like, go
I'm
to
gonna
training
to
tomorrow?
practice.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
he's
I'm
going to go
practice.
train tomorrow. It's the same thing I've been doing. But I think there is this misconception that, you know, once you've arrived, then you don't have to keep working. And the people who are masters, whether it's rowers or jiu-jitsu players or athletes or actors, like there's no destination that they arrive. They're like, park it and I'm here. It's just continual progress.
Yeah. Well, bro, I can tell you, man, I've been in jiu-jitsu for 23 years now, like consistently on the mats, more days than I've been off the mats. When I was younger, I was training 7 days a week.
Wow.
I don't feel like I was proud of how good I was at jiu-jitsu until I was probably 7 years as black belt.
Whoa, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
Like,
you're
don't get me
15,
wrong.
20 years into this at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and here's the thing too, as a coach, as an academy owner, there's a lot more than just me as a competitor, right? It's how I can train others. It's how I can coach. It's how I can inspire. There's a lot of different hats to wear as an academy owner. But I can tell you, man, I battled imposter syndrome for a long time because, I mean, my coaches were Joao Assis and Marcus Buchecha. Like, I got my black belt from two guys that won the world title multiple times. And there was always a thing that's like, man, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And it's not until I learned to like really step into my power and be me and understand that my jiu-jitsu is not in comparison to other people. The magic of jiu-jitsu is what you can share with the world and how you can empower others through it. And once you let go of the limiting beliefs in jiu-jitsu, not only is it freeing, you get a lot better too. A lot better. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I was second or third degree black belt before I felt like, oh, I am fucking incredible at jiu-jitsu. And that's changed the trajectory of my academy too. You know, we have 300 students. Our mats are packed every night, and it's just been the coolest journey in the world.
I love it, man. I don't have anything to do with it, but I still got to say I'm proud of you, man. I see what you've done over the past, 6 years since we've known each other. And I'm like, dude, this is inspiring. So we're going to sync everything up. And then what I want to do, and I don't think we've ever done anything like this before, but in the next essentially 90 days, 90 to 120 days, I want to have you back on the podcast.
For sure.
And I'm gonna go through when we do that, I'm gonna go through this podcast and write down all the things that you said. And I'm like, all right, where did he get it right? Where did he get it wrong? What did he learn? What went well? What was out of the realm of expectation? And we'll just do a deep dive into the after action review on it.
I can already tell you, I'll probably be like, hey, that guy that thought he knew this or that.
It's going to be hilarious, man.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say to your listeners is my Jiu-Jitsu Academy is about an hour north of Seattle, Washington, in a town called Lake Stevens. We are Electric North Jiu-Jitsu, and our academy ethos is like light vibes and heavy rolls. Bunch of cool people, bunch of cool guys and gals to train with. If you're ever local, I don't do drop-in fees. I don't make people sign contracts. I don't do any of that stuff. If you're ever local to my academy, please come and share time on the mats. We share our jiu-jitsu with you. You share your jiu-jitsu with us. And that's the real powerful part about jiu-jitsu is the network of people behind it.
Absolutely. Cool. We'll sync everything up, man. Greg, I appreciate you. I wish you luck. I'll be watching your journey. We'll be supporting over here. And the guys with Order of Man will be rallying behind you. Keep up the good work, brother.
All right. Thank you so much.